Gaza. The name itself evokes powerful images and complex emotions. Geographically, it is a remarkably small sliver of land, a narrow strip nestled along the sparkling yet often troubled waters of the Mediterranean Sea. It is bordered by Israel to its north and east, and by Egypt to its southwest, making its position incredibly significant in a volatile region. This tiny territory, measuring only about 41 kilometers, or roughly 25 miles long and between 6 to 12 kilometers, or about 3.5 to 7.5 miles wide, holds an outsized importance on the world stage. Its very geography contributes to its challenges, creating a confined space where tensions can easily escalate and spill over, impacting the lives of all who call it home and drawing the constant attention of international observers. Despite its diminutive physical footprint, Gaza is home to a remarkably large population. Over 2 million people reside within its borders, making it one of the most densely populated areas anywhere on Earth. Imagine a major city's population squeezed into an area smaller than many suburban towns. This sheer density of human life amplifies every problem, from access to basic resources like clean water and electricity to the devastating impact of conflict. Every event, every decision, every airstrike or rocket launch has immediate and widespread consequences for a population with virtually nowhere else to go. The struggle for space, for resources, and for a semblance of normalcy is a daily reality for Gazans, a constant backdrop to their lives. The geopolitical significance of Gaza cannot be overstated. Its location at the crossroads of continents and cultures has historically made it a coveted and contested piece of land. In the modern era, it has become a central flashpoint in the long-running Israeli-Palestinian conflict. The political dynamics within Gaza, particularly the governance by Hamas since 2007, and its relationship with Israel and Egypt create a complex web of alliances, enmities, and international pressures. Any significant development in Gaza sends ripples throughout the Middle East and often demands responses from global powers, each with their own interests and concerns regarding the stability or instability of this critical region. Understanding Gaza, therefore, requires recognizing these fundamental aspects: its constrained geography, its incredibly concentrated population, and its pivotal geopolitical role. These factors are not merely background details, they are active ingredients in the ongoing story of struggle and resilience that defines this land. They shape the daily lives of its inhabitants, influence the decisions of political leaders, and fuel the humanitarian crises that so often capture global headlines. To grasp the complexities of the current situation, one must first appreciate the profound and enduring significance of this small but immensely consequential strip of land on the Mediterranean coast, a place where history and humanity collide with intense force. Gaza's history is a long and often turbulent narrative stretching back thousands of years. It has been a strategic prize for empires and a crossroads for trade and culture since ancient times. Control over this coastal strip has shifted numerous times, with Egyptians, Philistines, Assyrians, Babylonians, Persians, Greeks, Romans, and later the Byzantine and Ottoman empires, all leaving their mark. Each era of rule contributed layers to its complex identity, often through periods of intense conflict and conquest. This deep well of history means that current events are not isolated incidents, but rather another chapter in an age-old story of struggle for control and existence in a land that has rarely known lasting peace. The weight of this past is palpable in its ancient ruins and in the collective memory of its people. The 20th century brought new dimensions to Gaza's historical trajectory, particularly with the end of Ottoman rule after World War I and the subsequent British mandate for Palestine. During this period, the seeds of the modern Israeli-Palestinian conflict were sown, and Gaza found itself increasingly embroiled in the burgeoning nationalist aspirations of both Jews and Arabs. The 1948 Arab-Israeli War, which led to the establishment of the State of Israel, dramatically altered Gaza's demographics as it became a refuge for a significant number of Palestinians displaced from other parts of Palestine. From 1948 until 1967, the Gaza Strip was administered by Egypt, though it was not formally annexed, existing in a state of political limbo. The Six-Day War in 1967 marked another critical turning point as Israel captured the Gaza Strip, along with the West Bank, East Jerusalem, and the Golan Heights. This began a period of direct Israeli military occupation that would last for decades, profoundly shaping the lives of Gazans and fueling Palestinian resistance movements. Israeli settlements were established within Gaza, becoming a significant source of friction. While Israel unilaterally disengaged from Gaza in 2005, dismantling its settlements and withdrawing its troops, it maintained control over its borders, airspace, and territorial waters, a move that critics argue transformed the nature of the occupation rather than ending it. This period set the stage for further conflict and internal Palestinian political shifts. The internal Palestinian political landscape shifted dramatically in 2007 when Hamas, an Islamist militant group, forcibly took control of Gaza after a brief but intense conflict with the Fatah-led Palestinian Authority. This event led to a significant tightening of the Israeli and Egyptian blockades, severely restricting the movement of people and goods in and out of the territory. This blockade, cited by Israel as a security measure against Hamas, has had devastating consequences for Gaza's economy and civilian population. The most recent escalation, following the Hamas-led attack on October 7, 2023, which resulted in 1,200 Israeli deaths and the taking of 250 hostages, has plunged Gaza into an unprecedented crisis, adding another devastating layer to its long and sorrowful history. The humanitarian situation in Gaza, already precarious for many years, has deteriorated into a full-blown catastrophe following recent escalations. As of May 2025, a near-total blockade has been in effect for nearly 3 months since approximately March 2, 2025. This blockade has severely choked off the entry of essential supplies. Food, clean water, medicine, fuel, the very basics needed for human survival, are critically scarce. Reports from the United Nations indicate that this stranglehold on aid is pushing the population of 2.1 million people to the very brink of famine. The desperation is palpable as families struggle to find enough sustenance to survive each day, a situation that leaves no one untouched by its cruel reach. The impact on Gaza's healthcare system has been nothing short of catastrophic. Hospitals, which should be sanctuaries of healing, have repeatedly found themselves in the line of fire or crippled by the lack of essential resources. Israel has been accused by Gaza's health ministry of deliberately targeting power generators, thereby crippling hospital operations. Recent Israeli ground operations, such as Gideon's chariots, reportedly led to the closure of the last functioning hospital in northern Gaza, leaving all public hospitals in that entire region out of service. The Indonesian hospital, for example, was attacked, suffering damage to its generators and forcing a suspension of services due to critical shortages of water and food for patients and staff alike. Displacement has become a defining feature of this crisis, with a staggering percentage of Gaza's population forced to flee their homes, often multiple times. United Nations reports indicate that displacement orders have affected as much as 80% of Gaza. Recent figures from mid-May 2025 show over 41,000 people were displaced following a single evacuation order, with cumulative numbers since May 15th reaching over 57,000 in southern Gaza and 81,000 in the north. People are seeking shelter in overcrowded schools, tents, or with relatives, often in conditions that lack basic sanitation or safety. This constant upheaval adds immense psychological trauma to the physical deprivation, stripping away any sense of stability or security from countless lives. The food crisis is particularly acute, with the UN warning of a widespread famine if conditions do not drastically improve. The blockade on food aid has directly exacerbated these famine conditions. While Israel has stated it will allow a basic amount of food to prevent a hunger crisis, the aid that does manage to get through, such as limited consignments of flour and medicines via the Kerem Shalom crossing, is described by UN officials like spokesperson Stefan Dujarric and UNRWA's Louise Wateridge as woefully insufficient. The scarcity has led to an increase in looting, with essential goods reportedly being sold at exorbitant prices on the black market, further victimizing a population already pushed to its limits. The escalating crisis in Gaza has not gone unnoticed by the international community, prompting a range of reactions and diplomatic efforts, though often with limited immediate impact on the ground. Tensions have flared beyond Gaza's borders, with incidents such as Israeli forces reportedly firing at diplomats in Jenin. This led several countries, including France, Spain, the United Kingdom and Canada, to summon Israeli ambassadors to express their grave concerns and demand explanations. These diplomatic confrontations underscore the growing international alarm over the scale of the conflict and its repercussions on civilian populations and international norms, highlighting a rift between Israel and some of its traditional allies. Beyond diplomatic rebukes, some nations have signaled a willingness to consider more concrete measures. Both France and Canada have reportedly threatened sanctions against Israel if its offensive continues unabated. The United Kingdom and the European Union have been reviewing trade agreements and have imposed some sanctions, primarily targeting Israeli settlers in the West Bank, though the effectiveness of these measures in altering the broader conflict dynamics remains a subject of debate. Human rights organizations like Amnesty International have been vocal, calling for a halt to all military support to Israel and demanding targeted sanctions on Israeli officials implicated in violations of international law, urging a stronger stance from global powers. The legal arena has also become a significant front. The International Criminal Court, ICC, has issued arrest warrants for Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and former Defense Minister Yoav Gallant, alleging war crimes and crimes against humanity. This is a landmark move, bringing high-level Israeli officials directly under the purview of international justice. Concurrently, South Africa's genocide case against Israel at the International Court of Justice, ICJ, continues to unfold, adding another layer of legal and moral scrutiny to Israel's actions in Gaza. These legal challenges, while lengthy processes, represent a significant international effort to hold parties accountable for their conduct during the conflict. Amidst the devastation, efforts to broker a ceasefire and secure the release of hostages continue, albeit with immense difficulty. Indirect talks between Hamas and Israel have taken place in Doha, Qatar. Hamas has proposed releasing Israeli hostages in exchange for a comprehensive ceasefire and the release of Palestinian prisoners. Israel, on the other hand, has indicated openness to ending the war if Hamas surrenders, a condition Hamas is unlikely to meet. Conflicting statements from Hamas leaders further complicate negotiations. The fate of the remaining 58 hostages taken on October 7, 2023, with only 23 believed to still be alive, weighs heavily. And groups like the Hostages and Missing Families Forum have criticized military operations they fear endanger those still captive. Even US President Donald Trump visited Doha, pushing for a ceasefire and proposing a freedom zone in Gaza under US involvement, illustrating the high stakes and the desperate search for a resolution. The path to peace remains fraught with obstacles, yet the pursuit, however challenging, continues.